How would you like to wake up and find that your local river had been inundated by a coal ash spill from a local coal-burning power plant? This is exactly what happened to residents along a stretch of the Dan River, which borders Virginia and North Carolina. According to an EPA report titled EPA's Response to the Duke Energy Coal Ash Spill in Eden, North Carolina, quote, on February 2nd, 2014, officials estimate up to 39,000 tons of coal ash spilled from Duke Energy's Dan River steam station into the Dan River in Eden, North Carolina. I chose this topic because as an employee of the offending company, I am interested in learning more about the effect on the surrounding communities and on my company. Now that I've shared with you what I'm going to talk about, let's look at some of the impacts that the spill had on the environment. One of the most immediate concerns was the effect on the local water supply. In an article in the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ's website, titled Dan River Coal Ash Spill, DEQ states the following actions were taken following the spill. February 11th, samples of water and sediment were collected. The results showed, quote, no water quality standards for metals were detected, and none of the metals found in sediment were above the levels of concern. Also, another quote, sampling results of the treated drinking water for Virginia localities that use the Dan River have consistently met or exceeded all applicable federal and state standards, and there are no public health concerns with drinking water. So, even though it was a mess and nasty, there were no health concerns for the people affected by the spill. The next thing we'll look at is the wildlife habitat and recreation. According to another DEQ article titled Natural Resources Damage Assessment and Restoration for the Dan River Coal Ash Spill, the Dan River Basin is, quote, a multiple-use recreation area that provides fishing, boating, and wildlife viewing opportunities. The article also cites the river as being, quote, a vital habitat, end quote, for the endangered Roanoke log perch and James spiny mussel. On February 20th, 2014, fish samples were taken, tissue samples from fish, and the results showed, quote, no metals above level of concern. So it appears there was not that big of an environmental impact. Now that we've heard a little about the environmental effects, let's look at the role played by various regulatory agencies and how the matter was handled. Coal ash spill prompted swift responses from local and national regulatory agencies. The North Carolina Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, DENR, was the first agency to respond since the spill occurred in Eden, North Carolina. And Virginia's DEQ was next to follow. According to an article released by the EPA titled EPA's Response to the Duke Energy Coal Ash Spill in Eden, North Carolina on February 3rd, 2014, NC DENR requested EPA assistance to handle the incident. And, quote, EPA provided technical assistance including oversight, data management, and sampling support. Now, regulatory agency involvement had some effect on it, of course. And according to an EPA article, the EPA's response to the Duke Energy coal ash spill in Eden, North Carolina, Duke Energy and EPA entered into an administrative order of consent on May 22nd, 2014. As outlined in the order, Duke Energy completed removal of approximately 4,000 cubic yards of coal ash from the Dan River and from water treatment facilities in Danville and South Boston, Virginia. An additional item in the order requires Duke Energy to, quote, conduct long-term monitoring through July 2015 along the area impacted by the spill. If test results at that time show acceptable levels of contaminants, then the EPA could potentially release Duke from the requirement to perform any further monitoring of the situation. After looking at the involvement of regulatory agencies, let's move now to the impact on Duke Energy and the company's response to the incident. Of course, there were fines involved, and according to John Downey, senior staff writer for the Charlotte Business Journal, on April 16, 2015, in an article titled Duke Energy Settlement for Dan River Coal Ash Spill Means Millions for Virginia, the 2014 coal ash spill released massive amounts of coal ash which spread downriver and settled along an 80-mile stretch between the Dan River plant in Eden and the Carr Reservoir in Virginia. For its culpability in the spill, Duke Energy has agreed to pay a $2.5 million settlement with Virginia regulators, primarily Virginia DEQ. This is one of the largest settlements ever proposed by this agency. Duke Energy's response, according to John Downey in the previously cited article in the Charlotte Business Journal, Duke Energy NC President Paul Newton was quoted as saying, quote, "Although the Dan River coal ash spill occurred in North Carolina, we recognize the number of miles the river spans in Virginia. Duke Energy is committed to working with DEQ to expedite the benefits of this agreement and to help protect and promote natural resources in the state." End quote. And according to an article on Duke Energy's website titled Dan River Response, Paul Newton was quoted as saying, quote, "We remain committed to assuring the long-term health of the Dan River and the communities it serves." End quote. Per the previously cited Duke Energy article, the company has launched a shareholder-funded $10 million water resources fund designed to, quote, "assist communities, organizations, and programs in the Carolinas." The fund has designated at least $1.5 million specifically for the Dan River region. And as of September of 2014, Duke Energy has spent approximately $20 million in response to the spill. In conclusion, now you know the basics of what occurred in this spill and the ongoing impacts to both Duke Energy and the people and wildlife dependent on the river for their well-being. Also evident is a renewed focus on preventing future occurrences from taking place. I hope I've been able to convey the potential negative effect of outdated coal ash storage systems and the steps being taken to mitigate the risk of unintended releases. Thank you.